Did you guys know that this is how I started my channel? I wonder if anyone is from the good old days, from the beginning. But yeah, back in the old days, I lived in a one-room apartment with a cat, and I would find the news article that I found weird or bizarre. I would present it to you guys, and then I would start reading it. I would get really angry, start screaming. My cat would start meowing because it's panicking, like, why is the owner screaming? And it's like, well, I'm reading in the mainstream media that air conditioning is sexist. Like, what is the world coming to? Are people getting insane? But yeah, that's how I started my channel. I guess I had some insightful commentary if you guys are still here. I'll probably not listen to myself. A lot of times, my videos have big issues, like editing, audio issues, because I just don't listen to them again. I hate my voice. It's one of the worst things. I am glad that I am me because I don't have to listen to my voice. And I wanted to do that again today. I wanted to go to an article which recently resurfaced. And this is in part of independent people buying stocks and causing billionaires to lose money. The whole GameStop fiasco, I'm pretty sure you're aware of it by now. But what this unfolded was a circus in the mainstream media with left-leaning journalists saying that, yeah, these billionaires, they might be bad people. They might be taking advantage of the pandemic to get themselves rich. They might put people out of business and destroy livelihoods, but they don't deserve bad words on Twitter. They don't deserve people to say mean things to them. And then you get the ADL saying that, yeah, those people buying stocks, you should be wary of them because some of them might be anti-Semitic. So you should keep away from that group because it's unsavory. And then you have other high takes like the people who are buying stocks are virgins. And, you know, like I covered most of it in This Week in Stupid. And probably guys know about all of this. But it's just absolutely ridiculous to see. And here you have in the Washington Post, this interesting thing is criticizing billionaires, the new wearing blackface. And this happened before the Wall Street fiasco when apparently people on the left had the mask that they're against billionaires. Which is kind of funny because the Washington Post is owned by a billionaire. I mean, all of these people that are progressives in the media, they're pretending that they're fighting against the man, but they are owned by the man. I mean, if you're a journalist working at the Washington Post and Jeff Bezos doesn't want you to cover a subject, what are you going to do? Are you going to cover it? Of course not. In fact, there are leaked footage from mainstream media networks with journalists complaining about forced to cover the impeachment 2 years ago. And they're like, well, we don't want to cover it. But we're forced to cover it because, like, that's what our editors want us to cover. And this is corporate media, which makes me laugh when I hear that they claim they are left-leaning. They're not left-leaning. They're left-leaning on social issues. But when it comes to economics, they're incredibly right-wing because they care about making money for their owners, which is the billionaires. Now, the second thing that amuses me is criticizing billionaires, right? Because if you look at Bernie Sanders and people like him, they used to constantly talk against millionaires and billionaires. Like that was his catchphrase. Everything bad in society, millionaires and billionaires. And all of that happened until Bernie Sanders became a millionaire. And then they dropped the shtick with the millionaires, and now it's just billionaires this, billionaires that. That's pretty much how socialism works. Like, all the evils in society comes from the rich folk. And then you ask them, it's like, okay, define rich. Like, who are the rich folk? Oh, it's someone richer than you. So even if you're, like, one of the most rich people on earth, like if you live in the United States and let's say you have $40,000 a year, you're one of the most rich people on the planet Earth. I'm not even kidding. Like, you're probably in the top 5%. Now you can say, well, yeah, but the life expenses in America is higher. No. Like, trust me, you have a much better life in the United States with that wage that you would have in Botswana. Like, your quality of life is just years ahead than most of the other world. And that's how socialism tries to get you. It's like they're talking about the rich, but they don't really want to know that they're also talking about you because once the revolution starts, they all of a sudden don't discriminate between millionaires, billionaires, or even people that make $30,000 a year, right? Because now everyone has to be equal. And it's almost impossible to make the homeless person a billionaire, but it's very easy to make a billionaire homeless. So that's why most billionaires and millionaires flee the country. Like, they fled Venezuela or Zimbabwe or whatever country where socialism comes, like they just flee it. That's why you have an exodus from California. You don't even need to go to the point where you seize the wealth. It's just when you start taxing them way too much, they just leave. They pick up and leave because they can afford it. And then like another problem with socialism is that it stereotypes people. Like all the millionaires are in the same pot. All the billionaires are in the same pot. I don't think that's true. Like the billionaires that play on the stock market and they short sell. Like what is short selling? They're actually selling stocks that they know are going to be worthless. Like they require a sucker to buy from them. They know they're selling a bad product and yet they do it anyway. And after they do it, they want the business to go bankrupt. So what do? They go to the mainstream media and they start making a toxic campaign against that business, wanting to see it go under and having people getting unemployed. You get the billionaires that buy entire businesses just to bankrupt them. You know, like there are bad billionaires out there. And then there's good billionaires like Elon Musk, which just want to create jobs and they create factories and they innovate. And they send cars into space and whatnot. You know, like there's a massive difference between billionaires. You get a millionaire like Bernie Sanders. What the fuck does Bernie Sanders create? How many jobs does he make? What is the benefit for society that you have a politician which is supposed to serve the people that feeds himself out of taxpayer money? He's not producing anything, but he's getting taxpayer cash. And that's not a problem, according to socialists. That's actually a good thing. I had people that went to the European Union that I know. They worked as staff, not as politicians. But the vibe they got from the European Union is that those people that work at the government, they view the businessman, the person working in the private sector as suspicious, as evil. Like, oh, the free market. Everything that they can't control, they hate. So there's like a broader conversation to be had. There's different types of billionaires. There's different types of billionaires. But in these articles, they say that billionaires have everything, but not quite everything. Possibly the only thing they don't have is victim status. So right off the bat, this article from 2019 understands that victim status is something that's desired in society. It's kind of funny because it's something that you don't want to be. Like, who wants to be a victim? But the culture that has been crafted by the people at the Washinton Post and many others makes it a desirable thing to be a victim. Because victims have power. It's why it's called professional victim. Like, you make a profession out of victimizing yourself. Because now you have power and influence in our society. You didn't used to have this in the 90s, like if you were a victim. No one wanted to be a victim. But nowadays, if you can create the illusion or the impression that you're a victim, well, all of a sudden, the entire society is going to move in order to accommodate you. So, yeah, I mean, I do not find this weird when people from the Washington Post understand this. And I don't think this is a good thing, by the way. I don't think, like, wanting to be the victim status should be a coveted thing. But it is. Now, what's fascinating is that through the new culture of identity politics, billionaires can definitely become victims. Like the ADL said, if you go against the billionaires, you should be careful because a lot of these people might be anti-Semitic. But a better example seems to be with Occupy Wall Street, because the left used to focus on the class struggle. So it was the rich against the poor. And if the poor could unite, then they could change certain things. And that's what happened with Occupy Wall Street. You had, for the first time, a populist movement where you had capitalists and left-leaning people joining forces. The capitalists were upset because they didn't view it as a fair system where the rich gets to be bailed out from taxpayer money. And the left viewed it as an oppressive system because, well, you know, those are rich people and they're hurting the workers. So this is where identity politics starts being pushed. And if you can look at the number of articles that mention whiteness, you can see their number exploding after the end of the Occupy Wall Street. If you look at the articles that mention systemic racism, also massive explosion. If you look at articles mentioning intersectionality, like all of these can be pinpointed to the end of Occupy Wall Street. Number of New York Times articles mentioning racism. Number of newspapers, blogs, web-based publications that mention white supremacy. Number of New York Times mentioning discrimination. Because what they're doing here is a tactic that's also used in Californian prisons. Now, Californian prisons are renowned for being incredibly dangerous, and some of them house very dangerous inmates. Now, the inmates outnumber the guards, and the way the guards keep peace and order is by pushing racism onto the inmates. So instead of the inmates joining together when they riot and being against the guards, they're against one another now. It's like black versus whites, blacks versus Spanish, so on and so forth. They create division. A house divided cannot stand. So the bottom line is that class struggle hurts the bottom line of the billionaires. Identity politics does not hurt the bottom line of the billionaires, and in fact allows them to keep doing what they're doing. And they even use this as union busting techniques. It was reported that Whole Foods noticed that when a store lacks diversity, and by the way, like this can also mean like if it only hires Hispanic people or it only hires black people or whatever, then the chance for unionizing is a lot greater. Billionaires cannot fathom why, although some people idolize them, not everyone does. This is nearly intolerable as it is perplexing. What is this criticism all of a sudden? How can being the obvious winner in our new winner-take-all game not inspire universal admiration from the losers? Don't they see how badly they were beaten? So where's the love? There simply must be a way for billionaire money to buy him love, or at least peace and quiet. So here's the interesting thing, right? The writer of this article doesn't understand why people like billionaires. Like, why would someone want to read about the life of Elon Musk? And the answer, I think this has to do with Christianity and the culture that Christianity creates. Because the whole idea of Christianity is that people try to emulate Jesus. Jesus is considered to be the perfect human being, like the perfect embodiment, and you will never be like him. But people try to emulate his lifestyle in order to get to heaven. And I think like this principle is also applied to people that are successful in society, to people that we know are successful not because they cheated or bended the rules, but because they managed to create that success themselves. And this is why people like billionaires, because by trying to see what decisions they made, the lifestyle that they had, the upbringing that they had, you can try to reproduce this on your kids. And maybe your kids aren't going to become billionaires, but at least you give them a correct upbringing in order to give them an advantage in life. And this is definitely something that left-leaning people don't want, because they want equality. They don't want a kid doing better. In fact, there's many articles that you'll find in the media criticizing parents that really want to help their kids and that provide an education for their kids, because they're saying, well, yeah, but you have other kids in the ghetto that don't have two parents, like they grow up with a single mom or something, and they don't benefit from that education. So when you're actually trying to give your kid a head start in life, you're hurting other people. That's actually articles that you can find in the media. But this is the interesting part of the article, because a lot of people don't even know this quote from Mark Zuckerberg, which, to be honest, I didn't know about it until I read this one. So it says that it was a straightforward deal. Let the rich become richer and everyone would become richer. This is not something that right-wing economists support. This is a straw man that the left created. Like, I have not heard any right-wing economist say, let the rich become richer and everybody would become richer. This is trickle-down economics, as they call them, and it's a left-leaning invention. Whose fault is it that it didn't work this way? The unwritten part said that it's every person for themselves. And be careful whom you trust to make this kind of deal. Don't forget how Mark Zuckerberg once characterized people who trusted him. So this is very interesting. You go to this article from 2018, so 1 year before, and they're talking about how in the past there was a conversation between Zuckerberg and a friend. And Zuckerberg says that if you ever need info about anyone at Harvard, just ask. He's got over 4,000 emails, pictures, addresses, and other information. And the friend is bewildered, like, how did you manage to get that one? And Zuckerberg says, people just submitted it. I don't know why. They trust me. Dumb fucks. And to me, this is the real news. Like, this is just mind-blowing. You got the person, the owner of Facebook, which is pretty much saying that people who are just willingly giving him all this information, and they are dumb fucks. And I have to agree with him. Like, deep down, I have to agree with him. Like, everyone that gives their information to the Zuck is exactly what Zuck calls you. Dumb fuck, is the useful idiot that Lenin likes to call you. And if you know anything about Facebook's business model, this is how they monetize. They gather information from people, and then they sell it to third parties. They sell it to advertisers. They sell it to people who want to compile that information and sell you a product. And at this point, I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't sell them to politicians, sell them to China, or even do illegal things with it. I wouldn't be surprised. Why? Because, like, what's going to happen to him? He's a billionaire. It's like a fine of a couple of $1 million is like you paying a fine of a couple $1,000s for him. So, yeah, I mean, this is just so eye-opening. It's shocking that this wasn't on the front page of every single newspaper ever. Like, this should just destroy Facebook. Politicians should immediately just start looking into it and go like, wow, really? He actually said that? Wow, that's really concerning. But no, they only get concerned when it's Cambridge Analytica doing it. If Facebook does the exact same thing, but you're signing away all your rights with the TOS, then that's fine. So the article goes on and talks about a billionaire that is trying to make the word billionaire into a slur. The name of the guy is Howard Schultz. And he thinks billionaires should be called people of means because in the end he's a billionaire and you're not. So that's like the article, and this is what I wanted to talk about it because that Zuckerberg quote really was very interesting, and at the same time I wanted to delve a little bit deeper into the whole ideology that people who claim to be leftists are pushing, because I just viewed in 2021 leftism to be a shield for billionaires. That's what I view it. All of this identity politics nonsense is to distract people from the economical issues. It does nothing to help anyone, and it's being pushed like never before. And I think this is why. Being left-leaning in 2021 is just controlled opposition. It's doing the fight in order to protect billionaires from the scandal. Very similar to that movie Wag the Dog, I suppose. Wag the Dog is an old classic movie about a president that is involved in a scandal and he's going to lose the election. So he gets a guy from Hollywood in order to create a fictional war and put it on television to distract the American public from his scandal. And that's pretty much what I think identity politics is. It's just like creating false narratives and manufacture outrage in order to distract people from what's really going on in the economic class. And also, like, a funny thing about Wag the Dog, by the way, like, the only reason that I think that movie is really out there and has nothing to do with reality is because at the end, the Hollywood producer wants to take credit for lying to the public. He wants to go out and he wants to get a medal. Now, what ends up happening is that the Secret Service just arrest him and take him somewhere else. It's never disclosed, but he basically never sees the daylight of the day again. Now, in reality, Time Magazine writes articles about it, so I guess the fictional thing from Wag the Dog is that in the real world, the people that are manufacturing scandals and are distracting the public from the real issues, they can just step out and get the credit because they're so powerful that no one can touch them anyway. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you guys in the comment section.